Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Lager Than Life podcast. I'm Sarav.
And I'm Rory.
And we're back at it again, just your two favourite beer drinkers, here for episode 3, would you believe it?
We made it. Episode 3, we're here.
We just don't care what you people think, to be fair. We're still going to do our thing. So if you're returning to us, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. We promise the only way is up, and we're going to continue to deliver high quality content, which is discussion worthy, stuff you might take to the pub with you as well. But if you are new here and it's your first time, then welcome to an hour of our incessant ramblings. We promise to do our best to keep you entertained. So if you do like what you hear, please do not hesitate to leave us a review, leave us a rating, drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube, share with your family, your friends, your teachers, your lecturers, everyone on the planet. We want to grow, and we hope that you'll help us do our thing.
And also like the video as well. That really helps. And also click the notification as well, so that you can be the first to watch our videos when we next drop.
Absolutely.
And also, if you've got a lower attention span and you're on Instagram or TikTok, you can follow us there for more short form content.
Yeah. What's our handle?
At Lager Than Life _LTL.
That's really convenient, actually. How could anyone forget that? Lager Than Life _LTL. That's literally our names _ our initials. So go follow us up. But yeah, without further ado,
let's get into it.
Right. So, what have we got this week, Rory?
So our first beer of the week is first. Well, we might be having a second one, but we've got a Tsingtao. Apologies, by the way, if I've absolutely butchered that pronunciation. Tsingtao.
Tsingtao, there we go.
So this is a Chinese beer, and the Tsingtao Brewery is the second largest brewery in China.
Oh wow!
And it was actually founded in 1903 by some German geezers who just went over to China and they just started their own beer factory.
Wow.
It's and it makes up about 15% market share, and it's one of the biggest Chinese exports.
Oh, nice one.
So yeah, do you want to crack it open?
Yeah,
We'll
get
into it.
I guess maybe in one of our future episodes we should try the biggest.
The number one. I like that so far. We're always going for like the third biggest or the fourth biggest, but
we got to keep it real. You know? Yeah. When we become the biggest podcast, we can try the biggest beers.
We support the underdogs here at Lager Than Life.
Exactly. And you can support the underdogs too. Follow us.
Right. Cheers, mate. Episode 3.
I like it.
I'm a fan.
It's really different to what we had last week. So last week we had Voodoo Ranger, Hazy IPA, delicious, fruity. This is kind of, I guess you could say, more of a traditional kind of.
Just an easy drinking, you'd have it in the hot sun on a summer's day.
Yeah. Not a craft beer.
I feel like in Asia, they know how to make the beers. You know what I mean? What's the one in Thailand? There's a Tiger.
There's Tiger, and then there's
Singer, mate, they're so good as well. I feel like they know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, that's smooth as fuck as well. But for the audio listeners, it's a very nice logo, pretty simple. Red and green primarily, green bottle, simple. It just kind of has, 2 lions?
Yeah.
Nice.
Looks good.
It's nice. I like it.
Branding.
What would you rate it?
I'd give it, it's not as good as last week's, not as good as the Voodoo Ranger.
No.
But I'd probably give it maybe a 7.
A 7?
A 7.
I don't know, man. I might even give it a 6.5.
6.5? Okay.
Listen, let's be real. That doesn't mean it's a bad beer, and I think
it's drinkable.
Refresh the scale. It's more than drinkable.
Yeah.
5 is average. Let's remember on our 10-point scale.
That's true.
Right? And if we think about the elites, the premiums, the neck oils.
The neck oils of the world.
Yeah. I think it would be, given that we gave Voodoo Ranger an 8.5, I think it'd be an injustice to give this a 7.
Do you reckon?
So I'm going to have to give it maybe a 6.5.
Do you know what? You've bloody convinced me. We're giving it a 6.5.
Yeah, we'll give it a 6.5. We'll give it a 6.5. Great beer. Recommend it. Go get yourself a Tsingtao.
Yeah.
Mate. What have you been up to?
So this week, do you know what? I've not had much on. So obviously last week we were talking about did my first half marathon.
Crazy. Congrats, man.
This week, complete other end of the spectrum. I've been such a fat pig this week, right? So I don't know. You must have those weeks, right, where you just end up like eating out a lot more than you originally thought, right?
Yeah.
So, mate, it's in 5 days I've been out for 3 pizzas. No. So first I went to Pizza Pilgrims, which if you've been to Pizza Pilgrims, it's in Kingley Court, best pizza in London, insane. Then was Frank and Manco doing £5 pizzas at the moment if you go and eat in. So I went with some mates on Friday and I was like, I guess I'll just get another pizza. Anyway, so I was like, I love pizza. Anyway, last night it was a mate's birthday.
Yeah.
And we went to Bounce, which was good fun. And then we went for a pizza. We went like out after. So where are we going? So we're off to Zizi's. And I was like, fucking hell. I was like, so looking at the menu, I was like, maybe I'll get like a pasta or something like that. And then I just saw it coming out of the pizza oven. I was like, nah, that's it. I'm getting a third pizza of the week. But it gets worse, Sarav, right? So after this podcast, I'm off to see Babylon in the cinema. But we're me and Alan were going to do the VIP one, where you basically get like loads of food and stuff before, and you get like free drinks and free snacks.
Oh, nice.
So I looked at like what the food would be. It's fucking pizza.
Oh my god! 4 times this week.
So I might be doing my 4th pizza of the week. So yeah, it's been an unhealthy week, but you know what? I'm happy.
You're such a slut.
I'm such a slut for pizza. But yeah, no, it's been a good week. But what's new with you?
Before we get on to me, didn't you went to go see a film this week, didn't you?
Yes, The Fabelmans. Yeah. I'll talk about it in my recommendations. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, excited to get into that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, how's your week been?
So yeah, it's been good. Pretty chilled. Pretty busy. Been very, very tired this week.
The podcast is draining us.
Yeah. I'm actually becoming an old man, but no. So it's been pretty good. Yeah, but I went to a comedy night on Friday. So I think it was in where was it? Camden Head or something.
Okay.
It was right opposite Blue's Kitchen in Camden, and yeah, it was a comedy night, and I'm not going to lie to you, Rory, it was not good.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There is nothing worse than a shit comedy night.
I felt really bad because obviously these comedians are, you know, fairly reputable. They had their own routines. One guy spoke about how he did a gig in San Francisco, and I thought, like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, don't lie.
Don't lie, because, like, yeah. But otherwise, yeah, it just wasn't that good. And, like, you know, I do like comedy nights. Like I like going to the Top Secret Comedy Club. And
great night. Love that.
Because like, also, when you go on Saturdays, you often get one comedian who's fairly...
He's quite big, yeah. So it'd be like a bunch of unknowns, then suddenly like, I don't know, fucking Jack Whitehall just randomly shows up.
And the quality is incredible, and I also think they're super interactive with the crowd. I went to one of those where you do like a buzzer, and if you get like 3 buzzers and the comedian's out, so it's people like...
The Gong Show?
The Gong Show.
Yeah, mate, that is the funnest night ever.
So fun, because the audience is super, super involved with that.
Yeah.
And if someone's shit, then it's really funny as well.
And you're sort of waiting in the... I've done it a couple of times now, but that is honestly... It's going to the Gong Show. It's in... Is it the Comedy Store, isn't it? In Soho. And it's... honestly, it's such a fucking roller coaster of emotions, right? Because you're there, you're not sure whether they're going to be shit or not. And sometimes you're like, oh, they're going to be good. And the host, who is always pretty funny, comes on and says... So, you know, there are going to be times tonight where you're going to be genuinely really surprised by the standard of comedy here tonight. And there will be times where you might have thought you've accidentally stumbled into a time machine and gone back to a Victorian freak show. And the best bit is that in between the acts that the host just fucking rinses them all. It's brilliant. It's savage though. Like it's a tough crowd.
It's a tough crowd, but I don't know. I quite like that.
It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah.
I love seeing people cry.
do you know what's funny though? Is like the first half, like at the Gong Show, people sort of give them a bit of a chance, and like you sort of, you know, they'll give them like 60 seconds before they gong them off. By the second half, when people are on their, you know, 5th or 6th pints, like.
Oh, I hate that.
Like, people literally like gonging them off within seconds.
Like, it's just like sometimes it's horrible. Like sometimes you can tell someone's going to be funny, and then people just vote them off. And there was one time where like the staff, like the people who actually run the fucking event, they decided that someone was too shit, and people weren't going them enough.
Really?
And I was like, that kind of defeats the objective of the show. But nah, so this comedy show wasn't great, but it was all right. Crowd were really tame. There wasn't really many heckles. But there was one standout comedian for me. He was really, really funny. But it was one of those more like witty kind of jokes and laugh out loud jokes. But it was like good humour. He said one thing that was just... He spoke about Will and Kate, and like he spoke about Spare actually as well.
Okay, nice.
Just thinking we're fucking trendsetters. He obviously heard our podcast, and so he spoke about how like Will, because apparently I didn't know this, but in different countries, different versions of the book got released.
Really,
so
I didn't know that.
Apparently, in the book, Harry did speak about the fact that Will's cheating on Kate, but apparently that hasn't been
in the UK version.
Apparently, that hasn't been published in the UK version.
Fuck,
in other countries,
that's mad.
I don't know how true that is.
Interesting.
I'm going by this guy's. Yeah, but he just made some funny jokes. But if anyone wants to check him out, his name is Alex Keeley. I did want to recommend him because I did think he was really funny. Kind of like, I don't know. Like another comedian I really like is James Acaster.
Oh, he's great. I love James
super,
Acaster.
Super funny. Just like super awkward, but like
in a really sort of funny but slightly really jarring way. Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, Alex Keeley, check him out. But yeah, that's basically
love that. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's been pretty chill.
Great.
But mate, should we
Should we get into
Should we
it?
get into it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
So, Sarah, what's our first topic of the week?
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of popped up very recently, only a few days ago from when we were recording. I think it will be a couple of weeks past, but might still be interesting because I think this is going to be dragged out until February. Basically, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are, because basically there's this trans woman in Scotland called Isla Bryson.
Yeah.
And she's been moved to a men's prison. So let me just give the background on this one. This is a controversial topic. But yeah, you know what?
Let's get into it. This is what the show's about, yeah.
That's what the show's about. You know, we're having, want to hear your thoughts. So, Isla Bryson was convicted of rape charges. The attacks happened when she was a man called Adam Graham.
Right.
So she was remanded to this women's prison called Cornton Vale after being convicted. And Isla Bryson decided to transition from a man to a woman while awaiting trial. And I used the word decided because that was the word used in the article as well. Don't cancel me. So she was convicted on Tuesday the 24th of January, so only a few days ago, and there has been debate about where she should be serving her sentence, and where sentencing rules are actually due to be decided next month. So I don't think it's anything set in stone,
because this is new territory. Do you know what I mean? I'm in
the UK, and apparently it's the first time in Scotland where a trans person is being convicted, and this whole debate is happening. So one of the arguments that Nicola Sturgeon, who's the PM of Scotland, basically said that she agreed that it was not possible to have a rapist within women's prisons.
I think that's fair enough, but yeah, carry on.
I think that's complex. But basically, something else that I just thought I'd mention is that Scottish Parliament passed legislation last month making it easier for people to change their legally recognised sex. But Nicola Sturgeon said that the changes didn't play any part in Bryson's case. So Scotland basically said they're going to make it easier for people to transition from a man to a woman or a woman to a man legally. Legally change their recognised sex, make that whole process easier. Yet, this individual, Isla Bryson, is a trans woman who is potentially going to be sent to a men's prison. So, Rory, I want to know your thoughts, but firstly, I'd like to reply to one thing you said.
Go on.
So, Nicola Sturgeon obviously said that she thinks it would be not possible to have a rapist within a women's prison. Now, I can kind of understand the argument there. You're thinking about the safety of other women, and I believe, anatomically speaking, Isla Bryson still has male reproductive organs.
Still has XY chromosomes.
Well, always would, but still has a penis.
Yes,
basically,
yeah.
To my understanding.
Oh, so she's not had an operation.
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
This was apparently during trial, basically.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I understand that point. It's potentially dangerous for the other prisoners in the women's prison. However, I think it's slightly a problematic statement, because there's also going to be women in the prison who were born as women, so cis women, I believe it's called, who have also committed crimes against other women. So surely there's potentially danger there. Similarly, Jeffrey Dahmer. Mad, right? Jeffrey Dahmer only committed his crimes against men, right? Young men more specifically, and boys, but got sentenced to a men's prison. So I think it's very interesting, and I think that special consideration needs to be taken here. Something else that's interesting is obviously she expressed that she wanted to transition to a woman after she was accused
of charged with rape.
Yeah, but I believe that the crimes were committed, I think it was in 2016 and 2019, so a while ago.
So a bit of space between.
A bit of space between, so it's still possible, and I think ultimately, like, let's say, what's the reason behind it? It's realistically, Bryson probably believes that women's prisons will be less dangerous and less harsh, perhaps, than a men's prison. But I don't think you would undergo I don't think you'd lie about being transgender in order to get to a nicer prison. Yeah, I don't.
It seems like quite a big.
There's
easier ways to go about it.
And you wouldn't. I don't think one would do that, because that involves like a whole lifestyle change. It's not
Yeah.
just a declaration. It's
Actually, no, I'm a woman. Exactly.
I don't think so. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
So this was I saw this article, like this news story came out, and it's a weird one. When you first see it, you're like, well, I think that's fair enough, right? Because it's kind of hard to sympathise with a person who's committed two rapes, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought about it a little bit more, right? And actually, you got people are thinking about the safety of all the other women in that prison, but you've got to think about the safety of the actual inmate themselves, right? And obviously, like, it's kind of hard to have the debate and be like, oh, we need to be concerned about the safety of this absolute monster who raped 2 people. But ultimately, like, and then I did a bit of digging. I looked into it. So back in, I believe it was 2019, right? There was a case in Australia of someone in the exact same position who was sent to prison in Brisbane for 4 years for stealing a car, right? And she had transitioned from a man to a woman, right? She was raped 2,000 times in prison.
Oh, that's horrible.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is a similar case, right? To think that, oh, this person's going to be a threat to all of these other women in the prison, but like that, her as an individual is going to be a threat in a men's prison. So I think her concerns are completely valid there.
Absolutely.
And I think I was thinking about this, like, what is the way around it? Because it's a really complex, nuanced issue.
Absolutely.
And I think ultimately the percentage of trans people in the UK is less than 0.1%, right? Yeah, it's less than 0.1%. So I think the best thing you can do is take it on a case-by-case basis. And if that means just putting them in a separate ward that's separate from all other inmates, then I think you just do that.
I think that's interesting.
I think that's the way you go around it, because it's going to be different for each case you get.
But what about, so separate ward, and that would have a mix of trans men and trans women?
No, not in that sort of case, but it's a trick. I don't know if you do it on an individual basis. If there's one trans person in a prison, they're just put into a separate wing, where they have limited I don't know. It's a tricky.
It becomes complicated, right? And
because but then you can think, oh, that's almost discriminating them and like denying them of actually the gender that they've decided to transition to.
Absolutely,
it is this whole story is such a tricky one to navigate.
It's really tricky, and it's know, obviously in light of us of LGBTQ plus becoming more prevalent, obviously always exists, but much more prevalent and much more spoken about out loud. It's now getting to a point where there's actually challenges about how to treat specific individuals, specifically in this case. Now, I just think this is really problematic. One of the things that's been argued in this case is that there is no automatic right for a trans person to be convicted of a crime to service their sentence in a female prison, even if they have a gender recognition certificate, right? So just because someone is legally transitioned from a man to a woman, for example, that doesn't give them a right to have their sentence in a female prison. I think that is a terrible statement to make, right?
Right.
I think that's wrong, because that undermines all of the other work that's kind of been done
for the trans community.
Yeah, for the trans community to recognise someone who has transitioned as the gender and sex that they have transitioned into, right? By saying, you are now recognised as a woman in society. That's how you're going to be seen. You're going to have, female pronouns. If that's what you choose. You can use female bathrooms. That is how you're going to be recognised. But if you commit any crimes,
you now lose those rights.
Back to that. Yeah, scrap the fact that you're.
That's interesting. That's a
very
good point.
It's problematic. It's very difficult. I don't know what the right answer is, because if by law someone is considered a female and a woman, then surely the same should apply to when they are being sentenced and sent to prison. However, what you said, you're not sure about what the solution is. I don't have a fucking clue what the solution is either.
It's hard. It's so hard.
So what would my...
So you're running a prison. You're Nicola Sturgeon, right?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I was going to try to talk in a Scottish accent.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't even.
It's hard.
It's a hard accent. Oh, sorry.
You meant it's a hard decision. I meant the issue of the decision, but the accent's also pretty hard.
It's doubly hard. But if this was me, and I don't know, I'm just speaking off the top of my head now, I would 100% consult those who specialise in this kind of area with regards to trans rights,
Mm-hmm.
trans rights lawyers, trans rights charities, stuff like that. And I would take it a lengthy discussion. I wouldn't be rash or hasty and try and think about, appeasing the public, for example. But there's two main considerations here. You've got to take into consideration the safety of other prisoners, and you've got to take into account the situation and the safety of the individual of Isla Bryson.
And then also the other inmates
and
as
the
well.
other inmates. Yeah,
It's like I think it'd be a balancing act.
absolutely, absolutely, and it is tough. One of the things I saw is about potentially sending Isla Bryson to solitary confinement.
Well, that's what I was suggesting. Is that they should just be kept separate from all the other inmates.
Breach of human rights, apparently.
But then, okay, I'm not saying that for every crime.
Right.
But I'm saying specifically for someone who has committed rape and might be a potential threat to repeat that again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can't just say, let's hedge our bets, put Isla Bryson in a women's prison and see what happens. And if she does commit the rape, then boot her out. Because, you could potentially... You could stop that situation by just not putting her in a female prison and a women's prison altogether. Sending her to a specific ward, though, where she'd be by herself, I feel like that's potentially really expensive as well, isn't it?
It is expensive, yeah, and especially now as more people are sort of, coming out and transitioning to like the trans community is like growing, right? More people are comfortable with that because it's more spoken about a lot more.
Absolutely,
and you're not going to be able to do that for. If it goes from 0.1% to suddenly 5%, it's that's a lot of money and a lot of like restructuring of prison systems.
Absolutely. And I'm sure maybe if this becomes more of a thing, maybe in like male prisons and female prisons, there might be a separate ward just for trans individuals. I don't know. It's really tough. It's really tough. I'd also be curious is the wrong word because that sounds like I'm hoping this would happen. Absolutely not. However, it would be somewhat interesting to see what the response would be for a transgender man who committed crimes as a woman, to see where they would be placed in prison. Whether they would be,
if it was the other way around, that would be interesting. Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
Would it be the same?
Would it be the same? I'm not so sure if it would be, but I don't know. It is tough. Stay tuned. I guess we're gonna watch the news and see what is ruled in the end.
I'm really interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, but solitary confinement is probably not an option from a monetary perspective. You might be interested to know that the death penalty, for example, is actually more expensive than not the death penalty.
Really?
Yeah.
So hang on, it's more expensive to
put someone on death row than it is to just put them in a life imprisonment.
Really?
Well, if you think about the number of prisoners who are sentenced to death row, which is obviously not a huge amount, but there are quite a few in the US, for example. It's ruled out in certain states, but in some states it's still legal. And they wait years so they have to then be confined to normal imprisonment anyway. And then I believe they also put on suicide watch, and I'm not sure.
And that costs a lot more money then.
Yeah, because someone is literally designated to watching them 24/7.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other stuff. I mean, for example, the executioner fee. Someone has to be paid to actually take their life.
Hey, imagine that as your job.
Exactly.
If you were an executioner, what do you do? Like on your LinkedIn, just executioner. Like that's horrendous.
It's a mad specialist CV to have. They'd also have to then pay for therapy for the executioner.
That's very
That's the thing.
I'd never thought about it like that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? So but ties in. You can't just have a specific ward for Isla Bryson, with one person watching them, because how would the public feel about tax money going towards that? And it's not to do with the fact that she's trans. How would anyone feel about tax money going towards 24/7 watch for that one specific person? Do you know what I mean? It's like problematic.
It's problematic.
But yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of see what happens. Obviously, I hope for the best for all prisoners and Isla Bryson.
Yeah.
And hopefully the right decision is made. I don't know what that is. So I hope the right courses of action are taken to ensure the right decision is made, namely what I'd said, consulting of professionals.
They need to get people who are part of the trans community, who represent the trans people on a daily basis to come in and help guide the prison systems deal with this. Because I think in the next 10, 20 years, there's going to be a lot of more cases like this.
Absolutely.
Where it's in that sort of grey area. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what course of action they take.
And on that, Rory, I think there's another topic I actually wanted to talk about.
Go on.
which I didn't brief you for.
You're dropping this on me,
Yeah,
Sarah.
yeah, yeah. But no, I'm
My
actually
God,
just
I'm
curious to
here,
hear your opinion.
Go on.
Trans people in the Olympics.
Big topic.
Yeah.
Very big topic.
What do you think?
If I'm honest with you, my mind, not the Olympics, but my mind does go back to there was an MMA fighter who transitioned from a man to a woman, and there was a lot of controversy on the internet at the time because
Didn't she fuck up people?
fucked up other people, like was beating the shit out of them, right? And obviously, when you transition at quite a late age, you're still going to have a higher level of testosterone than testosterone. Just invented a new hormone.
Yeah.
You're going to have a higher level of testosterone than the average woman is. So I think, if I'm honest with you, I think for sport, it's a tricky issue, and I don't think they should be allowed to compete. And that's probably not the response that a lot of people are going to want to hear, but ultimately it's an unfair advantage. Like, men statistically are better athletes than women, right?
Yeah.
In terms of strength and in terms of
body composition.
Body composition,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you have an unfair. If you lived 40 years of your life as a man and then transition to women, you have an unfair advantage over other women.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately the trans community, it makes up, as I said, less than 0.1% of the population. So I don't think you can take these like very specific cases and apply them across whole tournaments like the Olympics and MMA, UFC.
What do you think of so this topic came up amongst me and my friends recently, and someone suggested that maybe there should be a trans Olympics, or like maybe a separate category.
Yeah, but would the trans? I mean, I don't speak for trans people, but like, would the trans community not be quite
perhaps?
Like, because it's a different, it's tricky one, isn't it? Because it's like, well, they don't identify as just trans. They now identify as women, right? Or men, depending on what they've transitioned to. So it's a tricky one to sort of create their own sort of.
I think,
and does it marginalise them even more?
See, this is exactly what I said.
It's a tricky one.
I said I don't necessarily think so. I think that's problematic as well, because it's kind of like, again, it's othering to create a separate category.
Exactly. Yeah.
So here's another question for you.
Okay.
This is something I hadn't thought about. What about like non-binary people in sport?
That's a good. I've never even thought.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I mean, I don't think
are there any cases of non-binary
I'm sure
athletes, and what do they?
I'm sure there must be non-binary athletes.
Well, do you just look at it as in terms of your your sex, right? Your chromosome, like. Because I think, as far as I understand, non-binary is like your gender, right? Yeah. Obviously, you can't change your sex is your sex, right? So they'll just categorize you in terms of.
But that's the same for transgender people, because they've still got XX or XY chromosomes. You can't change that.
I know, but the assumption is that they've gone under like hormone therapy, and they've gone under a transition where non-binary just identify. They don't identify as a woman or a man. Obviously, their sex is. So I guess, yeah, if you had a non-binary athlete, I guess they would just go in the category which their sex is.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, it gets a bit... Perhaps there might be some non-binary people who have undergone some kind of... I don't know. Maybe
I'm sure there are cases.
And stuff like that. So it becomes interesting. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting, because I know that as we get older, there's going to be more cases of this kind of stuff. There's going to be more debates.
There will be.
You know, I mean, there's also arguments about, and I forgot her name, maybe you'll remember, there's a female, a woman athlete who has got like a higher level of testosterone than other women athletes. Yeah. Who happens to win a lot of races and stuff. And
but she's always been a woman.
She's always been a woman.
So then, you can't really just base it on testosterone levels, can you? At that point, yeah.
But people argue that's an unfair advantage because, but I disagree.
That's just where you've been born, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. As I said, as we kind of get older, this is becoming more of a thing,
more of a hot topic,
like our parents' generation.
And I think, was it you who told me that they're noticing now that Gen Z, a lot more people, like the just in general the LGBTQ community, like it's growing a lot more than it has done in the last like 10 years. And the interesting thing is, like, do you reckon that is because now people are more comfortable with sort of, you know, being a lot more open to that, or do you think it's a result of external factors? Do you know what I mean?
It's very tough. That's really, really tough. I don't know if I'm ready to.
Yeah,
I'm don't know if
Down
I'm
the
ready
rabbit
to
hole.
dive into that just yet.
Yeah.
Because I want the podcast to be somewhat successful before I get cancelled.
Yeah.
Before spraying my opinions. But yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe it was in the latest census survey. They had uncovered that the Gen Z had had a much higher level of those who identified within the LGBTQ plus community, and I believe the highest within the LGBTQ plus community and categories that were given on the census data and survey. I believe the highest category that people are described to within that was being bisexual.
Interesting.
Which is interesting.
I think it's great. I think what that evidence shows is that people are just way more open with it now. I mean, people who might have kept that quiet their whole lives are now thinking, well, other people are, coming out. This football has suddenly come out. People are more comfortable with it, and I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I've personally kind of enjoyed seeing a development of was the separation of sex and gender, because obviously sex is whether you've got XX or XY chromosomes.
Yeah.
Now, gender is obviously like an interesting one, and I think like for me, why I found that interesting is because you're obviously seeing like gender roles being kind of explained way more in terms of people are, like someone's male or female depending on whether they fit in certain gender roles. That's not obviously that's such a massive reduction. But what I mean is like that's what we've kind of seen. We separated gender from sex, and people are starting to see that actually someone who's born as a biological man doesn't necessarily fit into male gender roles.
Yeah.
Which means, like, to me, it's like, okay, cool. Should we maybe look to just scrap gender roles altogether?
Completely, yeah. And just let people fit into whatever. Because basically, ultimately, the theory behind it goes is that like gender is all just social factors. It's like there's a reason why as a guy, so if you have the hair the way you do, and girls dress and have their hair a certain way as well, that's all just social. That's all to do with social forces.
No, absolutely.
It's really interesting.
So one person who, shout out to this person. Obviously, they're very famous, and I think that they stand for such an incredible thing. Is Youngblood. Youngblood is a huge advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. People who feel different. I think he's identified as bisexual, but said he has or maybe even pansexual. He's identified.
Remind me what pansexual is again.
Pansexual, I believe, is that you are kind of open to literally anyone. So bisexual is biological men, biological women.
Yeah.
Pansexual is biological men, biological women, trans.
Okay, interesting.
Trans women, non-binary.
Got ya.
Yeah. So Youngblood. I think he's identified as pansexual. However, I think he said his sexual preference tends to kind of be maybe like his past has just been women.
Okay.
Really. However, like he's also identifies as a male. He wears dresses on stage, and he writes songs about like promoting, like I don't know. Even,
that's great.
Like just stuff like he'll go on stage and he'll express how angry he is at like I don't know about like laws outruling gay marriage and stuff like that, and it's just incredible. Like he stands for such a good and positive thing within the community, and he's a man who goes and wears dresses and stuff, and he literally is challenging the gender roles that we see. Which is fantastic, and I think Gen Z definitely needs someone like that as a role model.
100%.
And yeah, so big up Youngblood. Also, I don't know if you've heard, but any of his songs, but he makes some banging music. Man.
What's his main song? I'm just trying to think.
He's got a song with I forgot who it was. One of his ex-girlfriend. Was it Hazley or something?
Okay. Haley. I think. Yeah, carry on.
It's called 11 Minutes.
I don't think I've heard it.
Banger.
Is it? I'll check it out.
And then he's got a song called Parents. Which is really, really good. Basically, the main lyric of that is like, parents ain't always right. And he just basically talks about how like your parents tell you to do one thing, but they're not always right, so you can do what you want, kind of thing. Which I obviously listen to the song. That's a massive reduction of the message, but it's interesting. It's interesting. So
okay, I'll check him out. Sounds good.
But yeah, bro, cool. Good debate. Good
cool.
Topic.
Love
discussion.
Love the Lager Than Life topics.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, of course.
What's our next topic?
Okay, so this is another one. So you'd actually sent me this one on TikTok, and I thought it'd be really interesting to discuss. So firstly, shout out to, I think his name's Dylan Page. You've probably seen him on TikTok. Great channel. News TikTok guy. Shout out Dylan Page. Makes really, really interesting TikToks, but I thought we'd discuss it. So basically, a few days ago, there was the first human monkey hybrid developed. What?
Jesus Christ.
What? I never knew that. What? What?
What?
There was a fucking human monkey hybrid. It's crazy. So this development happened and occurred from kind of 2021, where a team of researchers from the US and Spain flew out to China because they wanted to evade some of the rules and regulations in their own country.
Imagine being so set on that, you think, fuck it, I'm just going to go
Yeah.
to China where it's legal.
Crazy. Exactly. Exactly. So they flew out there.
Jesus Christ.
And they developed this whole thing. The whole reason that they've gone to do this and try and create a human-monkey hybrid is because they wanted to do some research around using animals to basically produce organs for transplantation into humans. You know, there's a huge waiting list to get organ donations for kidney donations and stuff.
So
like
this
that.
is actually, we're just going to grow them ourselves and then
Absolutely.
use them for operations and things like that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because kidney donations, I think people can do that if they're still alive. But
Yeah.
other organs, you can't.
They've got to be dead, right?
They've got to be dead. Exactly. And then they've got to be healthy as well. And then they've got to be matching the same blood type. It's like, and a bunch of other stuff to make sure the organ's compatible. So that's what this whole thing has done. So the research team basically reported that they had successfully injected human stem cells into a monkey, into monkey embryos, and that some of the embryos just had survived for as long as 20 days, but then they were terminated, and they were basically destroyed because of ethical concerns, which obviously would.
I thought it was legal in China though. What?
For the embryos.
Okay, right.
But legal or not, ethical concerns.
Okay,
Right,
right.
and we'll get into it in a sec. But yeah, so basically, one of the things is that it's really challenging to target growing specific organs and basically having specifically human cells within a monkey or other animals. So whilst you might want to try and grow a human liver inside a monkey, there's always a risk at this stage in the research and the trials that stem cells might go into the brain, and then you might have a human monkey brain growing with some human cells in it. So I don't know really what to make of this, because where do you draw the line? It's still frightening and scary, and
But it's for a good cause though.
Yeah,
right?
but
If this means more humans can survive and more people get successful transplants, is it not a good thing?
So here's the thing,
Go on.
right? Here's the thing,
Hit me,
man.
Sarav.
Yeah, I'll hit you.
Fuck you up, man.
Nah, bro. Here's the thing. No, it's for a good cause, but then it's what? So you can just grow babies. Are you?
I'm just bit number 2. Before we get into it,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
get bit number 2, all right.
I'll do mine in a sec. No, but bro,
Go on.
it's potentially killing a human, someone with consciousness, just for the sake of organs and stuff. This is what I'm saying. If you're growing the human monkey hybrid,
Yeah.
and the stem cells go into the monkey's brain, and it becomes a
Right.
human monkey brain, and you've potentially got a human,
Right.
right? So you
It's I guess, yeah, because I'm probably looking at it from it will just be like a monkey, but it will have organs, but actually it's creating consciousness. This is like an AI chat from last week.
Aye.
Yo.
Yeah. No, but yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that kind of seems wrong. No, that seems intrinsically wrong. But also, just kind of doing that to monkeys, as regardless, it also seems
It's
a bit
also ethical concerns.
ethically wrong as well. But then, yeah. So I don't know, man. It's problematic.
It is murky territory.
Murky
Do you know what I mean? I
territory.
feel like when you start crossing human DNA with other DNA of other animals, whether it's a monkey or a crocodile or whatever, I just feel like, you're into dangerous waters
100%.
there.
But this is where shit gets a bit fucked up to me, because it's why do humans have this kind of thought that we're just the best and we can do what we want with other animals?
Humans love to play God.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? They love it.
Man.
Yeah.
It sucks, honestly. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think
Should we just leave it?
I think to be honest, that to me is the sort of territory where we just shouldn't go near anything to do with eugenics and things like that.
Okay.
Even not even in terms of hybrid, but even I think there's a lot of research at the moment going on to being able to change different parts of the human
genetic
DNA.
modification.
That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. Genetic modification and being able to. I saw this concept video recently. I can't quite remember the name of the company, but it's basically a concept of how you'd be able to grow babies in a lab, and you'd be able to watch it from your phone, and you'd be able to change different, change its eye color, change its hair, change like skin, like all this sort of things, and stuff like that freaks me out.
Allow it.
Because at that point you're interfering with natural selection.
Yeah.
And that worries me.
Do you think that potentially could that potentially stunt evolution or speed evolution?
Speed it up. Well, I guess it would be speeding it up, yeah, but it's not natural then, is it?
It's not natural.
It's forced evolution, yeah.
But is that not sort of evolution?
I don't think. I think natural selection. The whole point is that it's such a small. There's such a small chance of a mutation then going on to become the dominant species. That like when you're forcing it, that's like we shouldn't play God.
But why? I'm sorry, I'm just pressing you here.
No, go on.
Because evolution is only an account of the past and what's happened and how we've got here. But one thing that hasn't been factored in is technology.
Yeah.
So surely technology plays its own part in the future of evolution.
Because technology is such an inherent part of our lives now.
Absolutely, it's become an inherent part that can affect our future, and therefore evolution is kind of tied to technology,
That's an interesting question. But I think, where do you draw the line, right?
Well, yeah.
Do we just you get into territory of we can just basically breed out whole races of people or whole anyone with disability, everyone would just be what society conceives as the perfect human, and I think that's horrible.
No, absolutely, and then it would also only give those who've got the money to be able to kind of do that, and then what?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be the rich who can genetically modify.
Yeah. And then you're gonna have they'll end up being a Hunger Games type of thing. Or have you ever seen Cabin in the Woods?
Oh, great film! Yes, yeah.
It'll just be that thing where you've got the rich elites who just raise these genetic monsters just to kind of fucking fight each other.
But the other thing, sorry, I just had a thought. Natural selection, ultimately, the reason you get these sort of slight mutations and then they do well is because it helps them survive, right, and then pass on their genes to the next generation, right? We're talking about survival here. But then if you compare it to what you're talking about of we'll be able to genetically modify, that's not for survival at that point. We've basically us as a human species have got past the point now where we're trying to survive. Because we've got technology, we now don't need to evolve as humans in order to survive.
That is survival.
No, but I'm saying us, and in terms of our DNA is what I'm saying.
Yeah, fine. You're talking about physical survival. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm talking about social survival.
So you're saying for example, if I was born, I'd need to change my hair to be blonde in order to socially survive. Is that the kind of?
Let's not say blonde because we're getting into Aryan children technology.
But more muscly, for example. Yeah,
exactly. Or taller, or stuff like that. Then you're getting again, you're separating I'm not saying I agree with that. I agree with this, and I don't think genetic modification should be a thing because I think it harms the whole kind of beauty almost of having a child with someone for the sake of wanting to be with that person and wanting to try and recreate a little version of yourself, and I think it kind of defeats that. But essentially, I don't know. I'm talking about it is kind of social survival because you would pick traits which would benefit that child
in the long run.
In the long run, from a social perspective, they'd be maybe good at sport. They'd maybe be better looking, find more attractive partners. It's all artificial, but
I think humans should be encouraged to make technological advancements. I think as soon as that starts affecting the DNA of human species, I think that's when you've taken a step too far.
There's a thing where you can now potentially, I guess they're saying you can maybe using this technology stop people from being born with Down syndrome and potentially preventing autism. Yeah. But like, I've got my own thoughts about all this stuff, and it's like I just disagree with all of that. I think like just let everyone be like how they are born.
Yeah.
But then that's also harsh for me to say as well, because you know.
Because if someone who maybe is raising a Down syndrome child might actually want that opportunity to prevent that, because obviously it's quite a burden on parents to raise a Down.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my own views on like maybe children who are born with like autism and stuff like that. I've got my own views on like different views on that. But again, it's like a very narrow-sighted view. Like, I can't really comment because but yeah, man, I don't know. It's all very confusing. This whole thing with like the growing like human organs and monkeys and stuff. I think, look, research is interesting, I guess, but like even if you were potentially able to target, so the whole issue now is that you can't target a specific organ within like a monkey, for example, right? You can't inject stem cells just to a specific organ, just to grow a specific organ in the monkey, and that the ethical concerns are it might go to the monkey's brain, it might have some human stuff, like whatever. But even if you could target it specifically, let's say to like a liver or like lungs or whatever, I still think there's ethical concerns there. Because you're growing a human, like lungs or liver in a monkey, and then you're basically just going to kill that monkey.
You're just going to using that in order to benefit another.
Exactly.
It's like that film, actually. My Sister's Keeper. Have you seen that?
You waste, man.
Have you seen it? So that's basically the film where great film, came out like in the early 2000s, but basically you had these two parents. I think one of them was like Cameron Diaz,
and one of them
and basically their child is terminally ill, going through all these different operations, and then one of the options cancer, and then one of the alternatives is to do IVF to create another child who will basically be able to, is it donating organs, I believe?
Organs, bone marrow,
all that kind of thing.
Cells. They made a genetically perfect match.
Yeah. In order to help the eldest daughter who was going through all these treatments and things.
Yeah.
And it was it's actually I think it was based off a book, but it's a really interesting film about like unpacking like eugenics, and is it morally questionable to create life in order to benefit another life? But really really interesting one. It reminds me of that.
Absolutely, yeah. So exactly, so it was a film that, funnily enough, starring Alec Baldwin as well.
Shit.
Yeah, he was a lawyer in it, and Cameron Diaz was in it as well. And exactly as you said, the sister who was born, her name was Anna. She was a child, had to undergo loads of surgery, stem cell donations, etc. And yeah, it feels wrong because she was a child. She kind of had to just do it, like she didn't have her own will. And the film is basically that Anna, the sister, who was the IVF child, born to undergo all these surgeries to help the older sister. The premise of the film is that she goes to Alec Baldwin, the lawyer, to sue her parents for having to get control over her own body. I don't know. I think that's wrong as well. I don't think you should raise someone. It almost feels like you'll then, like that child who's born by IVF will never be truly, like, it's not going to be loved in the same way.
Their own person,
They're not going to be respected in the same way. They're seen purely as a vessel for donating organs and messed up, isn't it?
And that's when the film starts, isn't it? She gets to a certain age, and then she says, "No, I don't want to do it anymore." When she gets to the age where she can make her own decision, she says, "No, I don't want to do this anymore."
And it wasn't even her; it was actually the sister who had the terminal illness. Who was like, "You shouldn't be going through this, and it's actually really, really unfair on you." And it absolutely is.
Yeah.
You know, to save one child, you're putting another through all these surgeries and stuff. That's horrible. That's horrible. But look, I don't know. I think, with regards to this whole thing with monkeys, like, I see what they're trying to do, but it feels really unethical. If they could do it in a way where they could grow like an extra organ, or I don't know, develop it in like just a lab,
but not within a living thing.
And not where you'd have to kill an animal to harvest an organ. That feels wrong. But then again, man, I mean, we're both meat eaters.
That's true. It's kind of like we can say all this stuff, but ultimately, you know, like, we eat lamb, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? They're literally bred and like killed within.
You know what? Out of spite, I might just become a vegan just so I can back the thoughts.
Just so I can back your argument.
Yeah. Just so
I couldn't become a vegan. You know, I couldn't do it.
You
could not do it. Vegetarian, maybe, because I feel like you can get like any meal you can just swap out like meat for tofu or meat for like, I don't know, aubergine or something like that. Like, there's stuff you can do, but vegan. I love cheese too much.
You know, my thing, Rory. Can I call you Rory? my thing, Rory, is that I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm a very all or nothing person. And those who know me well know that about me. I'm very all or nothing.
No half measures.
No, not at all. And so I always had it in my head like I need to become a vegetarian, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can never have meat again. So I'm gonna travel. I'm going to go to loads of different countries. I'm going to eat everything, and then I'm going to become a vegetarian. Yeah, right. And recently I've learned something about, you know, my methods, and that when I'm all or nothing, it's literally I'm all or nothing. So when I fall off hard.
Okay.
Right? So I'm trying some things. Right. We'll get into it. This another maybe next episode. But I wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions and stuff. Well, one of the things that I debated and contemplated is I wanted to maybe like stop drinking, but
full time.
Well, potentially.
What about the podcast?
But then we've got a podcast called Lager Than Life. So I can move into Dry January because that's the fucking drink. I mean, I can't be here. We've got a Sprite.
I'm not gonna lie, we can't be doing alcohol in free beers every
no. Exactly. I don't have time to change the name of the podcast. We've gone.
Yeah. We're too deep now.
We're too deep. But no, but what this podcast has shown me is that I am able to not necessarily be all or nothing, but maybe just be like a little toe in the water kind of person. So linking back to veganism, listen, in terms of environmental like changes, climate change, global warming, what are the two biggest contributors? I believe it is the meat industry and also flying, right? I love going on holiday. I'm gonna Elon Musk, because I know you're listening to this podcast. It's huge, yeah?
He's an avid listener.
Fucking hurry up with Hyperloop, yeah? So then we can all just travel and it'll be good for the environment and it's all good. But hopefully that will happen. But look, obviously meat. I think the main thing I'd like to do upon reflection, rather than be all or nothing, is I'd want to massively reduce my meat intake. And I'm going to start to make active changes to try and do that. Eat more vegetarian, eat more vegan food. But I don't necessarily think I have to completely cut it out. And I think the same applies for all people. If everyone just reduced their meat intake, if you look at the stats... It would help
so much.
Like, if you look at the stats of, like, meat production, back in, like, the 70s in the USA, it used to be, like, half a pound of meat per person per week.
What is it now?
And now it's, like, a pound per person per day or something.
Really?
Check this. Someone fact check me.
Yeah.
But, something like that. It's something crazy. Like, just the demand for meat has just, like, gone up massively. And actually, as humans, if we all just... cut down, it would really we just cut down. It certainly isn't.
I know some people who they're vegetarian when they're cooking themselves, and then when they go out for dinner, which obviously is a few times a month, maybe a couple of times a month, they'll treat themselves to meat, and I think that's
a good way to go.
That's a really good way to go about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really good for your health as well. Apparently, like your like how awake you feel. Is apparently like cutting down your meat intake like increases your energy.
But then I've heard some people who are literally on the who was it? Jordan Peterson was on like the carnivore diet where bro doesn't even eat vegetables. He just literally eats like meat basically the whole time. And he said that cured like loads of his ailments and way more energy and things like that. So like I've heard so many different things,
But he also said he hated it.
Oh yeah, I mean it'd be fucking horrible, wouldn't it? But like, it's I
don't know, man. Jordan Peterson's an eccentric guy. Like,
yes.
So
just chat out his ass.
Yeah, exactly. So like, let's not get too invested in what he says. But I don't know. Anyways, don't really know how we got onto that.
But we really got off on a tangent there.
Lager Than Life conversations. We love it. We think you love it.
To all 7 listeners.
Yeah. But anyways, stop fucking around with growing these organs in the monkeys. I think it's creating huge ethical dilemmas. In order for me to back my point, I'm going to cut down on my meat consumption. So you guys will listen to me, and I've got authority to speak on this. But look, let me just have my opinions, okay? And
I respect that.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll still be flying though, aren't you? You'll still be going on holiday.
Yeah, of course.
Aren't you going to India next month?
Going to India. Yeah.
I hope you're all getting the bus.
No. I'm going to Greta Thunberg and like take like several boats. No, but I'm going to India. Hopefully going to Philippines soon. We'll talk about that.
Next week.
Nice. But yeah, man, that's it.
Love it.
But yeah, bro, should we wrap it off? I think we've got some. How do we like to end? We'd like to end on some recommendations. I know I've got some stuff to chime in on.
Do you want to go first? I think I went first last week.
Should we alternate?
Yeah.
So
you go first.
A 1-1. How many things have you got?
I've just got one. Just the one. I got the Fablemans.
So I'll start. Then you. Then me.
Perfect.
Right.
Let's do it.
Okay. Number 1. One thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm wanted to talk about it for a while, is a very, very famous TikToker, and I believe his name is Connor Price. I think I told you about him. Guys, listen. Connor Price is fucking sick. Okay. Basically, he makes loads of TikToks and he makes music, but he did this one thing and it basically helped him just like get every video viral. But I love what it is. And I know it is probably for selfish reasons for himself, but that doesn't matter. This is probably a utilitarian argument because he's creating the greater good, like promoting greater good rather than trying to be intrinsically. But I like to think that he's trying to benefit other people. Connor Price basically makes music, he raps, and he started doing this thing where he's like, right guys, I'm going to spin a globe and wherever my finger lands, I'm going to meet an artist who's up and coming and make a song with him.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Great idea. So basically, yeah, that's exactly what he does. He spins a globe, puts his finger on. Obviously, he pre-plans it, but obviously, like 70% of the world is water.
Yeah. He lands on a finger. He says, "Oh no, I'm not going there."
But yeah, so that's what he does. He spins the globe, puts his finger on the globe to stop it, and then he finds an artist who's up and coming from that country, makes a song with them, and he videos this whole process of him spinning the globe, researching on his laptop, finding someone, shows a message he sends them, shows them sending something back, like a verse back on a beat he made, and then he previews the song. And mate, some of them
are good.
So
really
good. So the first one I saw, I believe he linked up with this guy called Killer from I think it's Zambia.
Okay.
And apologies if I got that wrong, but mate, it's so good. So the song's not incredible. It's all right. It's like a rap song, and then it's kind of a bit housey as well.
Okay.
It's like a house like.
Is this the one what Violet?
Violet.
Yeah. Man, this is a banger. I love that. Yeah, that's a great. I didn't realise that was Connor Price.
That's sick. Yeah,
sick.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And so he links up with this guy called Killer, and this guy who we linked up with is fucking incredible. Did you hear his bars in the story?
Mate, it's so good. Yeah, great song.
He starts off by saying, "A lot of people praying for my downfall, but the only thing that I'd be down for is being top 5, but like down 4." And it's like, how did you make all those rhymes? And it's like, what? Fucking sick, man. I was like, so good. So shout out Connor Price. I think like the videos are incredible. I love what you're doing. And I think he's probably really big in like the US and Canada, but if you're in the UK, like go check him out because it's like actually like very good entertainment. And
I'll subscribe. It sounds good. Yeah,
some of the songs he's coming out with and the people he's linking up with, like Killer, I've like wanted to go and like find like and listen to more of his tunes. So maybe next week that's what I'm going to be recommending. But
I love that. He's basically like pushing people up who have not got a bigger as big of a platform. That's great. I love that.
Exactly. So I think he's done one with this like in Zambia, one with a female artist in India, and he's done a few more. But and he makes good content as well. Like it is quite jokes. But yeah, that's
love that.
Mine.
Great.
Want to see you,
so my recommendation of the week is, you guessed it, it's a film.
So that's the one you went to go see.
Yes. So I went to see The Fabelmans. So if you're not sure, so The Fabelmans is basically a semi-autobiographical film about one of the greatest directors who ever lived, Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
Right, and it's about his life when he was younger, and him discovering his love for film, and discovering his love for filmmaking, and it's directed by Steven Spielberg.
So
right?
just for a bit of background,
go on.
What's in films that Steven?
So Steven Spielberg, he's known for E.T., he's known for Indiana Jones, he's known for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jurassic Park, like all the bangers. Right. Do you know what I mean? He's like he's been around for like 30 years in the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about his life, and it starts off, and you see him as like a young kid going to the cinema for the first time, and he's blown away, and he starts making his own films. So he buys like a really sort of a film camera, and he gets all his friends together, and he's like shooting like war films. So on one sort of side, it's like a sort of really sweet like coming of age about like a young teenager who's like pursuing his creative dream. On the other side, you get the more sort of family dynamic, which is you've got Michelle Williams, who plays the mum, and she's like very creative and she's into music. And then you've got Paul Dano, who plays the dad, and he's very like logical, and he's a computer scientist, and he's like, he doesn't quite understand Steven's dream to become a filmmaker, and that kind of clashes at some point. And then he sort of gets to an age where where Steven's, he's called Sammy in this film because he's not called Steven, but he's basically a younger Steven Spielberg. He sort of gets to the age of like 17, 18, where his dad's like, I thought this was a hobby, like you can't do this for a living. And he's there like so passionate about it, and he wants to do it full time. And it's a really, really sweet film. And I think for anyone who has, ever wanted to embark on anything, remotely creative, whether it's music or writing or filmmaking, like it's a really nice, wholesome Sunday evening sort of film.
Oh, nice.
And it ends really, really nicely. And like, yeah, I also want to give a shout out to the main character. What's the actor's name again? I think he's called, bear with me, Gabriel LaBelle, right? He plays Sammy, who's the young Steven Spielberg. And I've not seen him in anything before, but he is, honestly, you watch a film and he's just so charismatic and so likable and absolutely hilarious. And I hope he has a lot more work in the future, because he absolutely stole the show, and he acted so well even despite being like, with like Michelle Williams and Paul Dano, who are obviously acting powerhouses. But yeah, Fabelmans. I think you'd love it. I think it's a really good film. Like someone.
Why is it called Fabelmans?
So that's just basically a substitute for the Spielbergs.
Okay.
I spoke to someone actually at work who worked on that film.
Okay.
When they were at Universal, and had a chat with Steven Spielberg. And basically, the film is like, it may as well be called The Spielbergs, because apparently it's beat for beat the exact reenactment of his childhood. But I was thinking about this, it must be so weird, like as a director, recreating your childhood home, and you're casting people who played close members of your family, and you're casting yourself. Imagine the pressure as an actor. You're there on set and you're playing the person who's like directing you. But yeah, it's
big honour, isn't it?
Yeah, massive honour.
Massive honour. Interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
But yeah, I think definitely give it a watch. I think you'd really, really like it.
Okay.
And yeah, if you guys have seen the Fabelmans, let us know what you think in the comments. But yeah, have you got any more recommendations?
I have, yeah. So
Okay,
this
nice.
one, look, yeah, I recommended Colin Price. This guy's huge. I don't even know why I'm recommending him. And someone else I'm going to recommend, they're huge as well. But look, I have to talk about this. Less of a recommendation, more about just a rant that I want to go on, because as you know, I love music. This is something that I just feel like I haven't seen spoken about nearly enough. Right. It is Lil Sim's album, No Thank You, dropped at the end of 2022. Oh,
Fantastic.
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Genuinely, it was an incredible album. I think it was the best album I listened to in 2022. Easily, very well, and like tactically dropped at the end of the
At the very
year.
end, yeah.
Yeah, but oh my goodness, it's incredible. So, I've got the track open here, that's why I'm looking at my computer, but obviously, one of the first tunes that starts off with is Gorilla.
That's a banger. I love that song.
A banger.
Love that song. Yeah, because I had no idea. There was no marketing for this album. I had no idea she was dropping this album.
It just dropped.
And then I saw Gorilla on my release radar, right? Because I loved her. I was playing her old album quite a bit. Saw it, and I was like, oh, that's fine. She's released a single. Looked at fucking album drop out of nowhere. But yeah, mate, I love that song. It's a great song.
You know, obviously that tune, which is like Zimmer.
Yeah,
Who got the keys to the Bimmer?
Yeah.
And then she starts off by saying Simmer, who's got the keys to my blood clot Bimmer, and it's just so fucking smooth. She's got this mad flow and just keeps on fucking rapping and going. It's hard.
She's the best female rapper out there at the moment.
It's an incredible
Maybe
album.
one of the best rappers, actually. Not even. I think it's almost a disservice to be like one of the best female rappers. I think she's but she's probably to me is like top 3 UK rappers at the moment.
It's just incredible.
She's so good.
I think like the thing about this album, which just I really, really loved, is how it was just not genre specific at all. Like, not genre specific at all. Like some of the songs were so orchestral and just beautiful.
Yeah.
Like Heart on Fire. That's my favorite
that's
song
my
on the
favorite
album,
one.
and it's just genuinely so beautiful. She's got like just does some really cool things with her voice, where she can make certain things rhyme and sound really like just really cool. And like I don't know, like just like the way she'll just change her voice, so it's very amazing like that. And then just a bunch of other stuff. So not genre specific, as I said. You've got more orchestral tunes. You've got kind of more like dancey tunes. You've got kind of more old school hip hop tunes. Some kind of more modern day, like I guess just like rap. Like not
100%.
really genre specific.
I love an album that like covers so many different like soundscapes.
Yeah,
it's so much more easy to listen to, and I love it. Yeah,
exactly. So Heart on Fire for me is the best song on the album, closely followed by like Gorilla's probably really good, X is really good. Just listen to the whole album, genuinely it was
so good.
And interestingly, Heart on Fire is not even one of the most streamed songs on that, but one of the songs that Heart on Fire really reminded me of is a song called it's really, I had it in my head and
Which one?
Now.
Is it a Lil Sim song?
No, it's not a Lil Sim song. Cold Little Heart. Cold Little Heart, and I'm going to look it up quickly just so I can shout out the artist.
I know that song.
Michael something.
Michael Kuanaka or something like that. Yeah.
That's the one. Cold Little Heart.
Banger.
By Michael Kiwanuka. Sorry if I butchered the name, but it's an incredible song. It's almost 10 minutes long. But from start to finish, it's incredible. It goes through key changes. It starts off and it's just building up an atmosphere and a soundscape of just, I don't know, you can almost imagine like a lake and just like trees surrounded, and it's just setting a scene, and then it just dives into the most like incredible deep vocals, incredible words as well. So I'd recommend listening to that. But yeah, so Lil Sims, I haven't heard it spoken about enough. Just unbelievable album. I loved it so much. Best thing I listened to in 2022. and I've literally I played it on repeat like a few
It's
times.
a great album. Have you checked out the one before? Sometimes it's.
I haven't, man.
Oh mate, honestly, I feel like sometimes I might be introverted. That one I feel like got a lot more of a big splash than this recent album. But that one, if you liked this recent album, you would love Sometimes I Might Be Introverted. It's like it's got the same sort of really orchestral vibe to it. It kind of feels like quite cinematic almost, like it's a sort of film score almost. Incredible production, incredible rapping, incredible storytelling. Yeah, I definitely check that out.
Okay,
it's
cool.
so good.
Yeah, because like one thing I didn't know about Lil Sims is obviously she was like active from a young age in terms of like rapping. Like there's videos of her as like a kid, like on like a camcorder, like family videos, and she's
no way
spitting, bro. She's spitting.
Yeah.
But,
and she's now obviously very widely known for Top Boy as well. Yeah. Which I think that was my first sort of encounter with her, was seeing her on Top Boy, and then she's a rapper. And then I sort of checked out her music, and since then, I think been a fan. She's great.
She's incredible. I saw a TikTok saying that she is the queen of UK rap.
I think 100%. Yeah,
how's that?
Easy.
She should be the emperor. Unbelievable. But yeah. Guys, thank you so much for listening. That's the end of episode 3 of Larger Than Life podcast. We are going to stick around for a while. So with that in mind, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. And then you've also got our socials, Instagram and TikTok.
TikTok at largerthanlife_LTL.
So easy to remember.
It's easy, right?
It's easy.
So yeah, follow us there. On YouTube, click the notification bell so that you get instantly reminded when we've dropped another episode.
Exactly.
And guys, if there's any topics that you want us to talk about, anything that's in the news, please DM us at largerthanlife_LTL. And yeah, we'll discuss one of the topics you've sent. But yeah, we appreciate all the love and stuff, and we'll see you on the next episode of Larger Than Life.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.